Greetings and salutations, young true believers. All right, so today, beginning chapter 3 of the Moral Parker text, clear thinking, critical thinking, and clear writing. So this chapter covers three overlapping but extremely important concepts. So the first one we're going to talk about is vagueness, right? So I'm going to read you a passage, and this will illustrate exactly what vagueness is. All transactions effected pursuant to this instrument shall be effected for the account and risk and in the name of the undersigned, and the undersigned hereby agrees to indemnify and hold harmless from and to pay promptly on demand any and all losses arising therefrom or any debit balance due thereupon. So obviously that's an exercise in what is known as legalese, right? This is a concept that's not covered in this chapter, but we should talk about it. Jargon is the technical language that's endemic to any given discipline, right? So words like ontology and epistemology, right? These are some examples of philosophical jargon, right? So what this is, in case you were wondering, this is the guarantee, or the agreement when you sign up for a credit card, that if you put a balance on your credit card, you will pay it off. That's what it is, but it's couched in very difficult legal language, right? So this is an example of vagueness. A word or phrase is vague if we cannot say with certain what it includes and what it excludes, right? So consider the word bald, and they have this example on page, this is 66 of the 12th edition. And there's a photo of Kim Kardashian, and there's a photo of Bruce Willis circa 1986 in the first Die Hard movie. Then there's a photo of Bruce Willis circa 2007 in the first Expendables movie. And then there's finally a photo of everybody's favorite Cuban pop star Pitbull, right? So is Kim Kardashian bald? No. Was Bruce Willis circa 1986 bald? Well, he was balding, right? Was Bruce Willis circa 2007 bald? Absolutely. And is Pitbull bald? Yes. Now, question is, right, how much hair does one have to lose to be bald, right? So you think about Homer Simpson, right? Is Homer Simpson bald or balding? So this is an example of another concept that's not included in the text, but this is good for you to know, the Sorites paradox. So the Sorites paradox is a paradox in general. We're talking about what a paradox is. A paradox is a seemingly irresolvable puzzle, right? So in ancient Greece, the question was asked, if you have 1 grain of rice, do you have a heap of rice? Well, clearly no. If you have 20 grains of rice, do you have a heap of rice? It doesn't seem like it. But notice, at some point, right, maybe it's 5,000 grains, 10,000 grains, 100,000 grains, whatever it may be, you're going to have a heap of rice. How do you demarcate a heap? And that's what the Sorites paradox is. It occurs when there's no clear demarcation between one concept, say balding, and another, bald, right? So, as Moore and Parker note, vagueness plays an important role in much that we do. In the law, for example, how we deal with vagueness is crucial. Whether the word torture applies to various kinds of interrogation techniques, especially including waterboard, for example, has been a serious issue for many years, right? So, just know that it's impossible to eliminate all vagueness, and that can be annoying, right? But we want to try to minimize it when we write, especially when you're writing argumentative essays in general, but especially in philosophy, because clarity and precision are at a premium, right? It's Moore and Parker note here at top page 67. When a claim is too vague to convey appropriately useful information, its level of vagueness is not acceptable. When a claim is too vague to convey appropriately useful information, its level of vagueness is not acceptable, right? The next concept is ambiguity. A word, phrase, or sentence is said to be ambiguous when it has more than one meaning. Does Paul cash the check mean that Paul gave somebody cash or that somebody gave cash to Paul, right? It could mean either. Jessica is running her house could mean she's running it to someone, she's subletting it, right? Or she's running it from someone, right? Now, again, ambiguity. It's not possible to eliminate all of it from our writing and speaking, but we really want to try to minimize it to the extent we can. Now, ambiguity comes in many forms. Before we dive into that, let's talk about the two parts of any language. It doesn't matter what language you're speaking. If it's Espanol, English, Mandarin, German, it does not matter. All languages are composed of two parts. There's semantics. Semantics refers to the vocabulary and the meaning of the words in the language. Syntax refers to the grammar in a language, right? So with that under your belt, we can talk about semantic ambiguity. A claim can be ambiguous in more than one way. The most obvious way is by containing an ambiguous word or phrase which produces a case of semantic ambiguity. The example they give is Collins, the running back, always lines up on the right side. Right there is an ambiguous word. It could mean correct. It could mean, it could be, again, referring to a direction, right? Jessica is cold. Could mean she's literally uncomfortable because of the air temperature, or it could mean that she's emotionally distant, right? There's grouping ambiguity. Grouping ambiguity occurs when it's not clear whether a word or phrase is being used to refer to a group collectively or to members of the group individually. Consider this sentence. Secretaries make more money than physicians do. If taken as individuals, secretaries clearly do not make more money than physicians do. But if taken as a group, then they do make more money simply because there are far more many of them. So again, we need precision, we need clarity, right? And as a general rule, don't hesitate to ask for clarification if you encounter an example of ambiguity like that. Syntactic ambiguity. This occurs when a claim is open to one or more interpretations because of its grammatical structure. That is to say, its syntax, right? So consider this claim. Susan saw the farmer with binoculars. Owing to the grammatical structure of that sentence, you don't know if she was using binoculars to see a farmer in the distance or she saw a farmer who was using binoculars, right? There's somebody in the bed next to me, meaning there could be a bed next to mine in the room, or there's somebody crawled into the bed with me, which, uninvited, that's creepy. All right, ambiguous pronoun references. The boys chased the girls, and they giggled a lot. The ambiguity comes in there with the pronoun they. Who was chasing whom, and whom was giggling, right? And lastly, we come to the concept generality. Generality is simply a lack of specificity, right? So if you ask your neighbor, what kind of pet do you have? And they say a dog. That's very general because obviously there are many kinds of dogs. If you ask them, you press them, okay, what kind of dog do you have? A terrier. That's less general, but it's still very general because there are many varieties of terrier, obviously, right? So again, you want to minimize vagueness, ambiguity, and generality to the extent that it's humanly possible in your writing. Don't hesitate to clarify what you mean, and certainly do not hesitate to define terms. And we're going to talk about definitions on Friday.